What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing everything 1792. You won't want to miss it. As you guys can see here, I have every bottle from 1792 except for the single barrel. Unfortunately, still haven't been able to get my hands on one of those ones, but I have everything from the small batch, bottled and bond, full proof, sweet wheat, and the 12-year. I'm also throwing in a kind of interesting one as well. This is the Wolcott. This is a spirit direct spirit only found at Total Wine, but it is also Barton Distillate. So I'm going to do a blind taste test. I'm going to pour all 6 of these up, put them in a blind taste, and I'm really interested to see where the Wolcott falls in place with all the other 1792s from the same distillery. So let's get into tasting. So as you guys can see, I have all 6 of these bourbons poured up right here. 5 1792s and 1 Wolcott. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, smell them. I do not know which ones are in which order. That's why they all have papers underneath, because I do not know the numberings for them. So I'm going to go through, smell them, taste them, see what I think, go back through, taste them again, and then I'll rank them from most liked to least liked, and see which ones they are. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start here on my left with the first one here. Whew. Smells like it has a little bit of proof to it. Got a lot of ethanol. Little pear, little cinnamon. Little graham crackery to it. Also smells like maybe a little bit of oak, so potentially a little bit of age on it as well. Second one here. This one's interesting. It has a little bit more kind of a cornmealy smell to it. And you kind of get a little bit kind of a like an allspice or like a baking spice to it. Not quite as much proof from what I can tell, but it does smell a little bit sweeter as well. Number 3. All right, this one I get the most banana from. Sometimes I usually do get banana like from these 1792s that I have tried. And this is the first one out of the 3 that actually gets that kind of tropical banana note. A little bit of pear in there as well, and a little bit of cinnamon. Also a little bit higher proof. I would say, the first and the third have been the highest proof so far. This one's also kind of tropical. I kind of get a coconut nose from it. Coconut and a little bit of like a gingerbread. Interesting. Number 5. Ooh, this one's super sweet. Has also a little bit of a floral note to it as well, which is super interesting. Kind of give like a little bit of like a maybe like a rose water or like a lavender. Also a little bit smelling a little bit sweeter as well. Not much on this last one. This last one's very light on the nose. Doesn't smell like it has too much proof, but it does smell like there's a little bit of like kind of pear, apple fruit on there with a little bit of spice as well. But not overpowering, which is kind of nice. It's not burning my nostrils by any means. All right, now that we smelled it, didn't get too much information. It's kind of a matter of tropical fruit and spice, kind of among them, and some have a little bit more proof that I can tell than others. Let's go through and taste them now from left to right. The first one now doesn't smell as much proof as I thought it originally did. Maybe it was because of the first one I smelled. But yeah, it does have a little bit of kind of a like a graham crackeriness to it. So yeah, that first one, it's not too hot. You get some nice fruit on it. You do get a lot of oak. So you kind of get more of that kind of barrel char coming through. And a little bit of proof as well. So I can't tell if it's a higher proof. I would say it's probably around 100 proof, but you do get a lot of that rich oak with a little bit of that fruit as well. All right, number 2. This one smells interesting. This one smells almost like it's like made from like 100% corn or something like that. Like it smells like a little bit funky now. Let's taste it. That one tastes a little bit funkier. kind of sweeter, but also a little floral. Um, but definitely not a high proof at all. Probably around 80, 86 proof. Third one here. Still getting a lot of banana from this third one, which is super interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about that third one. It does have a lot of a lot of barrel. It tastes like it might have a lot of age to it, but it definitely has a lot of barrel char. And on the palate, it's kind of one note. It's kind of just lingering barrel char. Not overly impressed by it. I'm gonna kind of put these in an order to where I can kind of remember which ones I liked. Let's see. All right, let's move on to number 4. This one's still. I don't remember if this was the one that I said had a floral note to it. But if I didn't say before, this one definitely gives me like a floral note on the nose. This one's pretty interesting. It definitely comes in waves. Um, I do get some barrel char on it, so it probably has a little bit of age. So there's not a lot of proof on this one. You do get a little bit of spice. You do get a little bit of proof, not like a ton, but I feel like a little bit more than like a base proof. And then it's a nice balance of fruit to char, but it does kind of have a funky finish, almost like a bitter finish that it's just not hitting me right. So I'm not sure. I don't. These two are kind of tied for me. I might have to go back and revisit those. All right, number 5. Woo! All right, after those, this one definitely has some proof to it. This one also has a strong floral note, but also a strong like coconut tropical note. Definitely a lot of proof on that one. It's giving you a little hug in the chest there. But it has the best flavor so far. Has a lot of spice to it, has a lot of tropical fruit to it, and it has just a hint of that char. That's pretty good. All right, now on to number 6. This one's a little biscuity on the nose. This one has a little bit of proof to it as well. It feels like, unless I'm just coming off the last one. This one I also feel a little bit in the chest as well. This one's nice too. Has a little bit, I want to say, of that banana note. Some nice spice as well. Just a little palate cleanser to get myself through here before I go back through for another time. It's the new bubbly melted ice pop. Not a sponsor. All right. Now that we've gone through it one time, and now that I've cleansed my palate a little bit, let's go back through it. Let's go the opposite direction and see how it is that direction. All right, first off, a little bit more caramel to this now that I'm smelling it again. The proof doesn't taste as hot as it did going the first direction. I think it's because of this second one here. Um, doesn't taste hot at all, so I would say this is probably sub 100 proof. But it has nice caramel. You do get a little of that oak to it, but not a ton. But nice caramel, nice kind of cinnamon spice to it. Good fruit, definitely a good one here. Not sure if it's going to stay in the position. Let's try the second one. Yeah, the second one has a lot of floral notes to it, a lot of banana. That kind of caramel note comes across as more of like a salted caramel toffee kind of note. It's really really nice. Definitely a higher proof to it. I would say probably like 115 to 120 proof on that one. Um, man, a lot of banana, a lot of cinnamon spice to it. This one just barely, I think, going back. I think this one just barely beats out the last one there. Let's try this one. Ooh, this one has an interesting note now. Going back through the other direction, I don't get a floral note, but I almost get like like a nuttiness from it, which is super interesting. I get like an interesting nuttiness from this one. A little bit of peanuttiness, like a dusty peanut kind of note, maybe an amaretto kind of note to it. A little bit kind of like a salted peanut is probably the best way I could describe it. Like if you're breaking open a fresh peanut out of its shell, that kind of dust that comes flying when you break into that peanut. This is kind of what it smells like. A little bit of fruit as well. It's nice, I as like a everyday bourbon, this one's really good. It has like a nuttiness to it, has a fruitness to it, and it has a little bit of like bitter barrel char on that back end. I'm losing a little bit from the mid palate, so it's not overly complex, but it's still really good. That one's not really doing too much for me, to be honest. I don't get a lot of good scents on it. I get a little bit of oak on the smell. On the palate, it's really, really one note, which is mostly just barrel char. Um, Not a lot of spices coming through, not a lot of fruit. I'm really just getting barrel char on that. So, not overly impressed. I think it's going to take a back seat. This is the most different out of all of them. So, this may be the Wolcott. I'm not sure. But I kind of get like a really, like, kind of grain, like almost like a cornmealy kind of scent to it. It smells like really, really sweet, like metallic sweet, almost like some of the other stuff I've like tried recently. This one does have like a really kind of interesting, kind of funky, like grain, like cornmealy kind of note to it. It kind of has that like funky kind of sharpie note to it that I had from the Frey Ranch single grain, which may mean that this is the sweet wheat. Maybe it's their high wheat. Although it's funky on the nose, on the palate, it is sweet. It does have nice vanilla. It does have nice barrel char to it. Um, it's got more complexity. This one was definitely more one note. This one has a little bit more complexity to it. All right. Ooh. Out of all of them, this has the most fruit now. On the palate, it has amazing spice now that it's kind of opened up in the glass. Really nice spice, some really nice proof to it as well. A lot of fruit. Now that I have these ordered from least favorite to most favorite, it's time to read what each of the papers say is my least and my favorites. So let's go through and see what each one says. All right, starting with number 6, very, very last place. Oof. Not expecting that. Not expecting that. I didn't expect it to go very high, but I wasn't expecting it to be the bottom. So last place is the 1792 small batch. Now I haven't had the small batch before today. I just bought it today, so I could do this tasting for you guys. So maybe it hasn't had time to open up fully, but this was the least impressive one out of all of them for me. It was very one note, didn't have a lot of spice, didn't have a lot of fruit, didn't have a lot of complexity. All I had was a little bit of barrel char, kind of one noting all the way through. It's probably why it's so cheap. It's only about $25. This is their base offering for the 1792 line. So probably going to use it for cocktails. It's not terrible. I mean, I don't know if I've had like a super, well, I've had a couple terrible bourbons. But this one isn't terrible. It just wasn't as impressive as some of these other ones. So let's go on to now number 5, my second least favorite. All right, so I got number 6 here, number 6 on my paper. Woo! All right, so I was expecting this to not be as high as some of the other ones, so it makes sense. But I Wasn't expecting it to come into this place. So number 5 is actually going to be the Wolcott. Now, like I said before, this is a Spirit Direct item over at Total Wine. This one goes for about the same price as the small batch, made by the same distillery. It is their base offering. Their bottled in bond is one of my personal favorites from Wolcott. But unlike the 1792 small batch, it's not one note. It did have a nice kind of funkiness to it. It was a little bit sweeter, wasn't overly complex. So if you're looking to get into bourbon, definitely check out the Wolcott. You can really get some good discounts on this as well. Shout out to my people over at Total Wine. It's a great starter bourbon, and I bet even some of their higher end stuff there, if I put their bottled in bond and their Rickhouse Reserve in this, it probably would have rated a little bit higher just because they are higher offerings. All right, moving on to number 3. So third to last is number 3. So now this one was a real surprise for me. Number 3 is actually going to be the Sweet Wheat, which I also just picked up today. This is one of the hardest ones to find behind the single barrel and the 12-year. I would say they're all 3 of those are pretty hard to find. And I just managed to pick one up today, and I guess I'm not overly impressed with it. It did have an interesting floral note to it that the other ones didn't have, and a little bit of a coconutiness to it. If that's even a word, coconuttiness. I don't know. It did have an interesting coconut note to it that none of the other ones had as well. But I wasn't overly impressed. I mean, in terms of sweet wheat, if you're going to call yourself sweet wheat, I figured there's going to be a little bit more vanilla, a little bit more butterscotch. But I actually think the Wolcott had the more butterscotch vanilla to it. So I'm not sure actually why that one's considered sweet wheat if it's not very sweet, which to me doesn't mean it has that much wheat. So interesting on that one. I'm not mad at it. I have been hunting the sweet wheat for a while though, so it's a little disappointing that it didn't actually rate higher as like one of my top ones. All right, now it's time for the podium. These are going to be the top 3 of my favorites, which probably are going to be the 3 highest proof ones. And that's just me. I like the higher proof stuff. To me, high proof is just like anything else. I like stuff that's not watered down to a lower proof. Watering stuff down is just like you do with anything else. When you water something down, you water down the flavors, you minimize the complexities. I like my bourbon complex, flavorful, got the most things going on, and to me, that's the ones that are the highest proof that haven't been touched the most. All right, number 3. This one probably should be the bottled in bond. The 12-year and the full proof are both amazing. Like I said, this one should be the bottled in bond, but it's not. In third place is actually the 12-year. Now, I did get a lot of oak to it. I did get a lot of proof on it as well. What's the actual proof? This is the one that I said was probably the closest to 100 proof. This one is 48.3% alcohol, so it's right there. It's 99 proof, basically. So it's almost 100 proof. Weirdly enough, it didn't have, in my opinion, as much of that aggressive oak that I got from the small batch. Now, maybe that means that the small batch is just so young that I'm kind of getting a more bitter young oak where it hasn't had time to mellow out like the 12-year. The 12-year, I believe I got a little bit more of that cinnamon spice to it and a little bit more caramel. It wasn't bad, but I'm surprised it ended up at number 3. Number 2 is going to be the bottled in bond, which has been aged for at least 4 years in a federally controlled facility, and it is exactly 100 proof. So very similar proofs on these two, but not quite as much age as this one on that one. So this one has a little bit more of that estery kind of tropical fruit to it, but I kind of liked it more. I don't know. The 12-year kind of just lost some complexity and lost some of that fruit flavor. So I really did enjoy the bottled and bond more. So that means the winner today is the hottest of them all. It is the 1792 full proof, coming in at 125 proof, which is crazy. It's hot, but it is the most complex. It takes you on a journey from spice to fruit to banana to oak to everything. It is an amazing bottle. As you can tell, it is the most drinking bottle out of all of them. It's really good. If you haven't had a chance, pick up a full proof. The full proof in the bottle and bond, you can find now almost everywhere all the time. These used to be super, super hard to find, just like these two bottles. And now doing them side by side, these ones are a better buy. They're cheaper than these, and they're better. So if you get a chance, pick up a bottle. You can't go wrong. If you're looking for daily drinkers, these ones, both easy to find, both good. This one just has a little bit more complexity to it, and you're going to enjoy it a little bit more. And they have some other offerings as well. But yeah, stop by your guys' Total Wine. Pick up a couple of these bottles. Mine here in Santa Rosa has a whole lineup now, as you may have seen on my Instagram. The only one they don't have is the single barrel. So go in, pick up a couple bottles. Shout out to my friends over at Total Wine for letting me know that some of these were in. And yeah, well, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for coming on this journey with me to find out which Barton Distillery offering is the best, at least from the ones I have. I know there's a couple more out there. Like I said, don't have the single barrel, don't have the Chestnut Farms. But from what I have, I do have a lot of stuff here from Barton. And my favorite today had to be the full proof. But yeah, guys, thanks for coming on this journey with me today. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for humoring me going through all the different 1792 Barton Distillery offerings and seeing which one's the best. So if you like this video, please come back. Keep watching all my other ones. I'm having a blast making these for you guys and making them for myself. And stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you can get notified when my next videos are. Follow my social medias. I just have a new account, J Michael Reviews, now on my Instagram for all of my YouTube stuff. So please come follow. Show me a little bit of support. It's been super fun. So I will see you guys next time. Make sure you stay tuned. All right. Have a good one, guys. Peace.